What's up, everybody? Exciting news in the world of spring football. The United Football League, the UFL, is alive for the 2026 season with new teams, new cities, new branding, and some news. First, why is this important? It's because I believe the NFL should leave no stone unturned, and that means finding players anywhere that you can. It means opportunities for overlooked players and second chances for other players, and a better pathway for international players to get their foot in the door, get some game tape, and get some real competition. I'm going to get right into it and keep this brief. Now, normally when news like this hits the airwaves of an upstart league or a young league having multiple teams moving, some teams being axed, new cities, new brands, that usually is the beginning of the end for that league. Now, this is certainly a turning point for the UFL, and it's a big moment. They're putting a huge investment in this change. But this is not really the situation at hand. This is actually the work of new investor Mike Repoli. Yeah, the guy who did Vitamin Water and Body Armor. He was sick of seeing gigantic stadiums with 70,000 capacity look empty for these games, and so it was his vision to move these teams into cities and venues that could better accommodate the 8,000 to 20,000 size crowds that the UFL is currently having. He instituted a number of changes, and the first of which was to eliminate conferences. So the UFL did this goofy thing where they held on to the legacy USFL and XFL branding, and the 4 teams from the USFL were in the USFL conference, and 4 teams from the XFL were in the XFL conference. I always thought that was stupid. That always kind of confused people who weren't paying attention, and it was unnecessary to keep harkening back to old brands. If you've decided to go with the UFL going forward and a whole new brand, then just eliminate all the other branding. So he has killed that branding. This also makes it an 8-team, 1-conference league, which means that the best 4 teams go to the playoffs, which is a much smarter vision for a small league like this. You don't want someone with a losing record entering the playoffs just because they play in another conference, not in a league this small. So this was a absolutely necessary change to the league. Kickoff is also starting for March 27th, 2026, which was the original date planned. That means with a projected 10-week season and 2-game playoff, a conference championship or whatever. If you want to do 1 seed versus 4 seed, 2 seed versus 3 seed, and then a championship, that would end on June 11th. That is later than I think a lot of people like, and Mike Repoli has kind of hinted that they could move the kickoff, quote, up in 2027. Now, I don't know if up means earlier in the year or if it means later in the year, but he's open to changing that for 2027, but is keeping the UFL on its current trajectory for 2026. Now, jumping into the major changes. So there are a number of new teams and there are a number of new changes. So first and foremost, the champion DC Defenders are staying at the soccer stadium Audi Field, a capacity of 20,000. No change here for the champion DC Defenders. In an interesting twist that happened a little bit earlier this year, it was leaked that cities could lose their teams. Birmingham, Alabama, despite being a 3-time champion in spring football, was one of the cities that could lose their team. The mayor of Birmingham, Alabama was surprised, took to social media, and the fans rallied around to keep the Stallions in Birmingham. Mike Repoli applauded the fans for stepping forward and saving their team, but also challenged them to show up in better numbers going forward. But so for now, the Birmingham Stallions are staying at Protective Stadium, a capacity of 47,000, one of the larger stadiums in this league. The St. Louis Battlehawks are one of the teams that always manage to draw huge crowds, oftentimes eclipsing 30,000 people, playing at the Dome at America's Center, a place that holds upwards of 40 to 60,000 people. They will be staying there, though Mike Repoli did hint that there is a soccer stadium, Energizer Park, just down the road, a place that holds 22,000 people. So we could see that shift in the near future, but it looks like for 2026, the St. Louis Battlehawks will stay at the Dome at America's Center. When the USFL and the XFL coexisted, there was a team for each league in Houston. The XFL had the Houston Roughnecks. The USFL revitalized the Houston Gamblers, which existed in the 1980s. When the leagues merged, they stuck with the Houston Roughnecks branding, which never really made much sense to me since there was a lot of history around the Houston Gamblers. Mike Repoli has rebranded this team back to the Houston Gamblers brand, oddly switching to a new logo that is, in my opinion, not as good, but nevertheless, this is the correct choice. And he has moved them to a new stadium. It is Shell Energy Stadium, another soccer-specific stadium that holds 20,000 people. The Arlington Renegades are now moving to Dallas. And this is mostly because they were playing in a minor league baseball stadium when they were in Arlington. This is the correct move. They are moving to Toyota Stadium, a soccer-specific stadium that holds 11,000 people, but has already been approved for a remodel that will be completed by 2028, which will increase capacity to 22,000. And now for the most significant changes to the league. The Michigan Panthers, Memphis Showboats, and San Antonio Brahmas have all been axed from the league and relocated. The Michigan Panthers played at Ford Field in Detroit, an NFL-sized stadium. The Memphis Showboats always had attendance issues and played at the College Stadium. And San Antonio Brahmas played at the Alamo Dome, which I don't believe had attendance issues, but there were other venue issues with conflicting schedules and things of that nature. So they've all been moved. The first of our newest teams are the Louisville Kings. Finally, football enters Kentucky. They'll be playing at the soccer stadium Lynn Family Stadium, which holds 11,000 people, and their logo sort of looks like the DraftKings logo. Next, and my personal favorite, are the Columbus Aviators, football coming to Ohio. They'll be playing at the soccer stadium, the historic Crew Stadium, which holds 20,000 people. And finally, the last new team, the Orlando Storm. They will be playing at soccer stadium Inter and Co. Stadium, which holds 25,000 people. And their logo kind of looks like a WNBA logo and sounds like a WNBA team. These are your new teams for the 2026 UFL schedule, and I'm excited going forward. I think that these are all excellent markets. In fact, in my earlier video about the UFL, I had mentioned both of these locations, Louisville and Columbus, as being premier locations for a new team. Part of that had to do with the soccer-sized stadiums, also had to do with just being middle America and bringing teams to places that don't have one. Orlando was just one that I assumed would get one, only because it's been tried time and time again, and Florida's a huge football area. So no shock there, though I didn't think it was super high up on the list for places that needed one. It's certainly one that could work and feels like a safer bet for a big budget move like this. So I'm excited for what the 2026 spring football season brings, and I hope you guys are too. See you next time.